Hello, everybody. We are live. We've got Bindu Namaste from a rainy Chennai for a change. We've got Lynn coming in. Lynn's going to be a guest on our show in a few weeks' time. So great to see you, Lynn. We've got all sorts. I saw Ray Abbott's in the house. We've got who else? We've got people backstage. We've got the numbers are building up already. So if you're out there, you know how it works. Please join in the conversation. Write in the comments box. Tell us who you are, where you are, what's on your agenda today, what you're doing. And certainly as we get through the conversation, please do ask questions. We've got Dorothy Powell coming in from Fort Lauderdale. Good to see you, Dorothy. We've got an interesting show for you today. We're going to talk about how to measure return on investment in global mobility. Now, it's a bit of a holy grail. How do we measure ROI in our industry? And we've got some great guests with us today. We've got Pankaj, Bhatia, and we've got Beth, Neilson, who are going to share some thoughts, some case studies, some screenshots about how we can actually do that, what we can do to measure return on investment in global mobility. So really, really important subject to talk about today. Hi there, Alexandra. Good to see you joining us. Hello, whoever you are, the LinkedIn user from Austin. I think that's Stephanie, actually. We've got Carol coming in from Minnesota. Hi, Carol. So, by the way, this show goes out live, obviously, today on every Wednesday at 11 a.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. UK, 5 p.m. Europe. But also, for those of you out in Asia, we do a recast. So there is a recast that goes out it goes out at 4 p.m. Sydney time tomorrow. So if you'd like to watch the show, or your colleagues rather who you think might be interested in the show, then let them know and make sure they watch the recast. So we're dealing with all these different time zones these days. Now, a lot of you want to get your CPE credits, and here they are, and let's just put them up here. If you want CPE credits, then our good friends at ERC have given us their credits. So you've got your GMS credits, your CRP credits, but also our good friends at Rocket Mortgage have helped us get HRCI credits and SHRM credits. So I'll leave those up there for a minute or two so that you can get those credits. If you want the credits, then just jot down the relevant code number, or get your camera out, your phone out and take a photo, or do a screenshot, or whatever you want to do, just note it down, and those are the credits. We'll leave them there for a moment. What we're going to do now is we're going to go straight into our immigration update. We're doing that, we're going to do our immigration update before our breaking news, because our wonderful Julia Onslow Cole has a dinner engagement she's got to get off to, so she will not be with us throughout the show, but she has change things around to make sure she is still here to give us the immigration update. She is a trooper, and we are truly delighted to have her as our immigration partner. So everybody, please hit the heart button, hit the like button, hit the applause button, and let's welcome onto the stage, all the way from Dubai, Julia Onslow Cole. Hey, Julia.
Hi, Brian. Hi.
How are you? And thank you for making the time to be with us. I know that you've got a very, very packed schedule today. We truly appreciate it. And we've got Diane sending greetings from Malaysia. Oh, what are you doing in Malaysia, Diane? You've moved around.
I know. I saw that. Yes.
Put it in the comments, Diane. Tell us what you're doing in Malaysia. So, Julia, give us today's update.
Yes. So, so I'm just going to give a little bit of a plug for the People First conference, which is tomorrow in Dubai. And I'm opening that conference with an armchair discussion with His Excellency Halal Amari, who's the Director General of the Department for Tourism and the Economy. And what we're going to talk about is why talent is so attracted to Dubai. And we've been doing a survey on this as well. And it's clear that a lot of talent, is moving to Dubai. I'm not sure it's the weather, But there are a lot of really super good things in Dubai. One of the things our survey found actually is, on a negative side, there's a bit of concern about cost of living because it really has soared since pre-pandemic. But there are lots of government initiatives to help companies and to try and bring down those costs. Now, there's two very interesting things that have happened in the last week in Dubai. One is that there has just been an announcement that if you are a UAE national and you're going for a government position, if you've got 3 years experience in private practice, then you will be preferred over other candidates. So this is quite clever because companies are very concerned about Emiratization levels, and this is a really good way and an incentive for UAE citizens to actually join private sector companies, and it helps private sector companies. So that's the first thing. And the second, I only heard about on Monday, and I was doing a seminar in London with His Excellency Dr. Hamid Bouamin, who is the chair of the DMCC, which is a free zone in Dubai. It's the commodities free zone. And he casually announced at the seminar a blue visa, and I'd actually never heard of it. So I did some more investigation.
I'm guessing.
Yes, it was very interesting. So we all know the golden visa. So that was the golden 10-year visa that was brought in 2019. And then there's a green visa, which hasn't been implemented yet, but that's a 5-year visa for sort of professional services level people. But the blue visa has just been approved by Cabinet, and I think it's the first in the world. And it gives you long-term residency for 10 years, and it really rewards your exceptional contribution in the field of the environment, in environmental action and sustainability. And it's not just in Dubai, but it's for outside. So if you were outside of Dubai and you have these credentials, then you'd qualify. And the idea is that, you know, it would help, you know, for say researchers or academics in this field. And really, it's just a strong message about how important the environment was. So I just think that that's really quite amazing. It's the, you know, the first of its kind. And perhaps this will be, you know, a new trend.
Wow, that's quite amazing. So that's a blue visa. So that's not what anything I've heard about. It's a shame it's not a green visa, really, isn't it? But they've really taken. I suppose,
unfortunately,
something else. Green's already taken. Yeah. Well, that's amazing. So thank you so much. That's a really interesting update. I'm just going to make a note of that. So the blue visa. We heard it all here first. So what's a serious question? Do a lot of people relocate because of the weather? Well, there's one.
That may be true. Yeah, I think that probably is true. Although it's interesting, poor Bindu has rain in Chennai, but lucky Diane being in Malaysia, remotely working.
Absolutely. And I'm guessing you've got a bit of sunshine out there in Dubai.
Yes, very hot. Yes, and no rain.
Okay. Well, we're going to let you go, Julia. I know you've got this dinner that you need to get
thank
to.
You so much.
So we wish you all, on behalf of everybody in the industry, once again, many thanks for your update, and we will see you again next week. We're now going to move on to share the breaking news, what's been going on around our wonderful industry. So everybody, you know how it works. Please hit the heart button, hit the like button, hit the applause button. So a big thank you to Julia Onslow-Cole, and let's see what's been going on in our wonderful industry over the last 7 days. So there we have it. Congratulations to everyone who's been promoted, everyone who's got a new job. If you're looking for a job, there's loads of opportunities out there, and we posted all those. If in a coming week you've got an announcement you want to share with us, for example, you've been promoted, or you've got a new job, or you've got a new job offer that you would like to put out there to the industry, let people know, then send us a message, send Tally a message via LinkedIn or via email, and we'll make sure that we try and publicize it. So congratulations to everybody. There's a couple of points, actually, I just do want to sort of just say, dwell on for a couple of minutes. The first is many congratulations. You probably saw that at the end of the breaking news there, to Emma and James Holder, who have sold Expat Academy, and in a move which I think is really unique and very innovative and good of them. They've actually sold the business to an employee trust, so it's effectively an employee buyout who bought Expat Academy. Expat Academy is a fantastic organization. I think they run about 100 conferences or events around the world per year. So they really are quite a major player in our industry, and we wish Emma and James all the best for the future. And of course, I know they'll be involved going forward, certainly for a while as advisors, but also to all the management team there. So many congratulations to everybody at Expat Academy in this exciting new era for your business. Also, I saw in the audience Damien Porter. And whilst we're on the subject of events, I know Damien runs a group called Movers and Shakers, which, as I understand it, is primarily for suppliers to get together and network. And they've got an event coming up in a few weeks' time in London. And Damien, if you want to post anything on LinkedIn about it, then you can feel free to use this platform to publicize your event. And then also, of course, we've got FEM on today. And I know our very own Cara Butler is actually out at FEM at the moment, and we're going to bring her on stage in a bit to tell us about what's going on with FEM out in Dallas. So a lot going on in our industry this week. What we're going to do now is we're going to bring in our change maker for the week, and I'm super excited. We have backstage the wonderful, the awesome, the one and only Megan de la Cruz of Air Products. So everybody, hit the heart button, hit the like button, hit the applause button as we bring onto stage Megan de la Cruz. Hey, Megan, how are you doing? Hey, welcome to the View from the Top. So
thank you. Honored to be here.
Yeah, well, tell us, for people who don't know you, how did you get into this industry? Tell us a bit about yourself.
Sure. Well, I grew up in a small town, and there was only a handful of immigrants, and one of them was my father, who's from Ireland. And one of his good friends is from England, British. And so at an early age, I became interested in immigration and international travel, films. I became friends with all the foreign exchange students, took some Spanish classes, and then I went to the University of St. Thomas, and I traveled abroad in Mexico and Ireland. And then when I graduated, I went to Spain and taught English. And then I came back to the US, and I started my career in HR, in talent acquisition, and supported the domestic relocation program. And from there, I started in in-house roles in international mobility. I worked for some service providers doing compensation services. And then in 2014, I moved to the UK, and I supported a few companies implementing assignment management software and writing new policies. So I was
you're on the service provider side at that point.
Yeah, I did some contract work, and I was in-house as well. So it was a bit of a mix. And yeah, it was really great to see those transformations by implementing those assignment managements, the technology, which created all these efficiencies and improved the end user experience. And then I started with Air Products in 2021. It's in UK, Hersham office. And a year later, I was offered the role for the Americas. So I was responsible for Europe, Middle East, and Africa. And now I am the international mobility consultant for Americas for almost 2 years now. So back in the US of A.
And why did you move back to Minnesota? Was there a particular reason why Minnesota? Is that where you're from originally?
Yeah, this is where I grew up. My mother's from here and went to college. I have a lot of family and friends here. So that's why I'm.
So tell us a bit about Air Products, their global mobility program, for those who don't know much about it.
Yeah, so Air Products is rapidly growing. Last year, we had almost 400 international assignments globally, all over the world, and over 100 international perm transfers. We have a team of 9 with regional consultants with admin and policy support. So yeah, I'm very happy to be part of this organization.
Absolutely. And of course, you're one of our change makers. So tell us a bit about why you like being a change maker. What do you get out of being a change maker? And would you encourage, please say yes, others to become change makers?
Yeah. Well, we're always, the world's always changing, and you have to get comfortable with the uncomfortable. That's what I like to think is. So as far as the change,
I'm going to write that somewhere. You've got to get comfortable with the uncomfortable. I love it.
Yeah,
okay, that's my best for the day. Absolutely.
Don't get too relaxed. Yeah. But change is good. It's just have to work through it. And I like to be part of the change maker group because it helps me stay connected with other folks in the industry. I learn about the up and coming changes, and especially with the technology, I like to see what's coming out. There's always new stuff.
Okay. And we always, if anybody out there is interested in becoming a change maker, it is for corporate mobility professionals anyway, only. Please do reach out to Tally and we'll see whether we can bring you in as change makers. We've got about 150 change makers at the moment, and they network quite regularly, and we use them to help us when we're sort of designing new features for our Benivo technology. But as a bit of a thank you for that, we make a donation to every change maker to any charity they choose. And we feel quite honored by how many different charities around the world we've supported, and the good that we are helping others to do, supporting their charities. Now, Megan, you've got a charity that is very close to your heart, and I know it came up on the videos, Macmillan Cancer Care. Tell us about that, and I know you've got a very personal story with your connection to them.
Sure. Yeah. So my dad was actually diagnosed with leukemia in 2014. It was a few months before I actually moved to the UK, and I was 8 months pregnant at the time.
Oh my gosh.
And so the hospice that was funded by donations really helped my father, even though they couldn't save him. But they helped him, through the last years of his life, and also with our family to support us. And so then when I moved to the UK, I thought I need to do something for people that have cancer, and Macmillan Cancer Support was my choice because what they do is they have these 5K runs in Bournemouth in October. So I don't know if everybody's familiar with Bournemouth. It's like southwest of London, maybe 1 or 2 hour drive at the end of the Jurassic Coast. And the run was at about 8 p.m. at night, so it's dark. And you're basically running along the beach, and the waves are crashing in. Everybody's wearing glow sticks and Christmas lights and headlamps. And it just was so amazing. And, then you run the last mile on the pier, and you just feel so impactful at the end because everybody's there for the same purpose. And so that's my charity of choice.
Well, that sounds like an amazing thing you did there. And Tally's put the link there on screen and also on LinkedIn. So Megan, thank you so much for being a change maker. We're now going to move on to the show, but we really, truly appreciate the support you give us as a change maker. And also, I think on behalf of everybody in the industry, keep up the good work in terms of supporting your charity of choice. And I would urge everybody out there to do the same and to support whatever is their charity of choice. It's all about, I mean, life is about not what you get, but about what you give. And thank you very much, Megan, for all you do. So everybody, please, we're going to bring on Cara now to do a Benivo update directly from FEM Live in Dallas. So everybody, please hit the heart button, hit the like button, hit the applause button. Let's say a big old-fashioned view from the top. Thank you and farewell to Megan de la Cruz, and a welcome to the stage, our very own Cara Butler. Hey, Cara, how are you doing? I think we've got you on mute, Cara. We need to take you off mute. There we are. Okay, so Cara, tell us what's it like. You're live at FEM.
I am. I'm live from the lobby of the beautiful Melrose Warwick Hotel in Dallas at the FEM America Summit for the next 2 days. So it's great to see everybody and great to be here, and it's going to be a great 2 days.
Okay, and they got good numbers there? Is there a good buzz around the place?
It's a good buzz, lots of people, lots of familiar faces, a lot of new faces, and I hope anyone here that wants to meet up, just let me know and we can chat while I'm here.
Sure. So if anybody is out there at FEM at the moment, do stop by and say, yep, you saw Cara on screen live on the view from the top. So what sort of sessions have you been seeing today, Cara?
Gosh, lots of good sessions about just changes in mobility, mainly around immigration, technology. So a lot of good subjects, a lot of great speakers. We heard from a great keynote speaker today about North Texas and a lot of activity that's going on here, and a lot of relocations and assignments that are moving, employees that are moving into the area. So great sessions. And the Emmas, of course, are tomorrow night. So we're all excited about that.
Absolutely. I'm always excited for a good FEM event and a good Emma's event as well. So I know we at Benivo are up for a couple of awards up there, and I know lots of other people are. So I'd like to wish everybody all the best. I hope you can all be winners. I know that's not possible, but just being shortlisted means you're a winner in my book. So good luck to everybody. Good luck to all the corporates who are up for awards, to all the service providers who are up for awards, the shared awards, and of course the individual awards. And we'll find out sometime tomorrow evening, of course, who all the winners are. But it's always a very exciting day in the Global Mobility calendar. So have a great conference, Cara. Send my best wishes and my love to Claire and all the team at FEM, and let's wish them a great, great conference.
Will do. Thanks, Brian.
Will do. Exactly. So we're now going to move on, and we're going to move on to our subject of the day, which is how to measure return on investment in global mobility. I'm super excited. We've got with us two great thought leaders. We've got Pankaj Bhatia and Beth Neilson, both from Benivo. So without further ado, let's say a big thank you to Cara Butler and a welcome to Pankaj and to Beth in the time-honored way of hitting the heart button, hit the like button, hit the applause button, and let's say goodbye to Cara and welcome to Beth and to Pankaj.
Hey, Brian.
Hello.
Where are you both today?
I am in rainy
Cambridge.
Ladies first. Beth, where are you? Where are you?
I'm at my house just outside of Cambridge in the UK. How about you, Pankaj?
Nice.
Yeah, I'm good. Yeah, so I'm in rainy Bangalore, excellent weather. So after the hot summer, I think we are having some excellent weather. So certainly good time to be on the show as well.
I must, just to let people in the audience know, we actually had a Benivo get-together week last week, and both Pankaj, well, Beth came down because you're in the UK, but Pankaj with Tally was there. People from all over the world came together, and it was just great to meet up in person. We can do all this virtual stuff, but everybody getting together in person is really quite special as well. And Pamela's saying, hi, good to see you. Pankaj, so people are coming all in the world waiting to hear, and this is such a big topic. I mean, return on investment in global mobility. I mean, gosh, people have been talking about this I've been in the industry forever, and I think people have been talking about this forever, but maybe with technology we can actually just move the dial a bit further, because it is difficult. Actually, I'm going to ask the question of our audience, and the question is this, out in audience land and LinkedIn world: do you try to measure ROI for mobility? Do you actually try to do it in your role? And I'll give you, as I always do, 4 choices. You can either say never, it's just too difficult, occasionally, regularly, or always. So, and if you say always or regularly, then we're really going to be coming to you and asking you, give us more feedback in terms of exactly what you're doing. But it's such a interesting, convoluted, and I must admit, difficult area. But out there, do you try to measure it? And how often do you try? Is it never? Is it too difficult? Is it occasionally? Is it regularly? Always? Pankaj, Beth, in your experience, start with you, Pankaj. Do you find companies want to measure it? Do they get frustrated measuring it? Do they measure it? Tell us, your practical experiences.
Right. So more in terms of the practical experience, Brian, and specifically my role in the industry, where I was, I think, for like 4 or 5 different organizations. And just to clarify, while I was part of the mobility team, I was aligned internally in one organization to the finance team, and one organization to the HR shared services team, one organization to the rewards team, the finance and the legal team, etc. So in all my roles that I have been in, again, I'm talking going back a few years back, yes, we kind of got into these discussions on a pretty regular basis in terms of, what is the ROI for the mobility programs, etc. So I would say maybe it was the organization that I was working in, perhaps in terms of the maturity, etc. as well, Brian. That was something I did see on a regular basis.
Okay. And Beth, from your perspective, what do you see in the market? Where would you say the market is? Never, occasionally, regular, or always?
I would say around occasionally. I say it's very difficult, and it depends on what your leaders are looking for. As you know, the opposite of Pankaj, I've always been on the mobility vendor side for my career, and it seems to be at the change in leadership, there's a different way of wanting to measure it. And I think one of the things that is consistent in our industry is inconsistency. Nobody measures things the same way, and nobody wants the same metrics. So even if someone is doing it regularly, they're probably changing the way that they're doing it as well, as our ability to measure and our focus changes.
And just looking at some of the comments that came in, Gina had said occasionally, Mary says regularly. Oh, would love to hear more about that in terms of what you both do. In terms of the poll that we actually did, because we did this as a poll on LinkedIn, and this is what the industry said to us. 32%, so that's just under a third, said never, it's too difficult. 36% said occasionally, so that's about 2/3 combined. And then 16% said regularly, and another 16% said always. So we've got basically a third say never, a third said occasionally, and a third said either regularly or always. So a real old split there. Which leads me on to my next question, I suppose, is, let's start defining our terms. And maybe I'll start, first of all, with you, Pankaj. What do we mean by ROI, return on investment, and why do we need to think about it from a mobility perspective?
Right. And I think that's a good starting point, Brian, because I think we need to clarify the ROI concept here, because again, the way I look at it, it's actually kind of split in two parts. One could be determining the ROI of a particular assignment. So as an example, if Jane Doe is traveling, is going on an assignment, let's say a customer billable assignment, and getting internal revenues, etc., billable revenue, etc., then that's kind of your return. And then there are associated costs to deploy Jane. So it could be in the form of, let's say, the airfare, the ongoing assignment cost, etc. So that's kind of one concept of return on investment for a particular assignment. And I think for the purposes of our discussion today, I think perhaps we'll kind of focus more on what is the cost which is there to administer the particular program, right? So how much are we spending in management of the program? So it could be in the form of, let's say, a hard spend where we are kind of spending cost on the vendors. It could be a soft spend or in the form of, for example, the cost of the internal team, the mobility team, which is there, and it could be in the form of either a time cost or a dollar value, etc. Not just the mobility team, and we'll talk about it. There are other team members also who get involved indirectly as well, right? And then the third component, I think, that we typically would talk about is the employee, right? So we always talk about the employee experience, how good it is. But as part of the relocation process, that is one cost which is also incurred, which is perhaps not kind of captured, is what is the level or loss of productivity which is being incurred because the employee who's relocating is spending time on non-productive activities as part of the relocation process.
So what we've got there, I mean, I thought you put that together very nicely, is we've got three elements is what we're saying. We've got the hard cost, if you like, the cash cost. We've got the soft cost of the mobility team and the other stakeholders internally, which can be either a cash cost or quite often more likely a time cost. And then we've got the cost of the actual employees themselves, the people who are being moved. So we've got those three elements of cost. Beth, let me just turn that question over to you as well. So we're talking about ROI and what we, and why we need to think about it. What would you like to add to that?
I think the thing that is most important is recognizing hidden costs and unexpected costs. So when you are thinking about delivering mobility, you might not think about how much procurement time or how much legal review time or IT time you're going to need each year in order to maintain your vendors, in order to renew vendors, in order to monitor SLAs, to track, and even for the employee to receive reminders about processes that they're meant to be doing. So I think today's discussion, as well as covering all the obvious, is really trying to unpick those costs that you might not think about when you're trying to understand how much you're currently spending and how you're spending your time and costs when delivering mobility.
Yeah, because it seems to me, let me just see, actually picking up some comments here. We've got a comment from Beverly King. Let's just put Beverly's comment up. She says, different leaders and even business groups got different objectives, reporting priorities and questions that need to be answered. I think that's a great point, Beverly. And congratulations on your new role, Beverly, as well. I see you. I know we put that in breaking news last week, so congratulations on your new role, and great to see you in our audience. I mean, that's a great point that Beverly's making. In a way, it depends, which telescope you're looking at it through. Different people have got different priorities. But one of the reasons I think that we need to understand ROI from our perspective, our lens as mobility professionals, is to help build a business case for change. Because if you want to change something, let's say, and I know maybe I'm biased coming from a Benivo perspective, but maybe you want to introduce a new technology platform, or there's some other change that you want to put in. As part of that, you need to build that business case. So Pankaj, tell us a bit about how you can use ROI to build a business case for change.
Right. So I think going back to some of the points, Brian, that we were talking about. So if you're talking about making an investment, right, let's say in terms of a change with either introducing a new technology or a new process, etc., you would want to understand what are the benefits that you get out of it, right? So the starting point typically would be trying to understand what are your current costs which are there, right? And then as a result of that change, let's say the technology or the new process, etc., that you're bringing in, what is the value that you bring for the stakeholders? What is the reduction or savings which happens, let's say, from the mobility team perspective, where they are not having to spend as much time on administrative activities, like Beth was indicating, chasing the employees, how you're able to automate processes, spend less time on reconciliation, using more of automation, etc., etc. So that's typically how I look at it, is trying to first understand what are your costs that you're incurring, and secondly, as a result of the change that you're intending to bring, what are the benefits which actually come, and then comparing that to see, what is the value, ultimate value, which is coming out of that change.
Absolutely. Jeremy, sorry, I'll come back to you in a moment, but I just want to pick up Jeremy Chander. He made a comment here. He's referenced an article, All Pain, Little Gain. It's a very long post, so I'll leave that up there for a second, but equally it's in the LinkedIn comments. But there's a great article, All Pain, Little Gain, reframing the value of international assignments. But he also makes this point, and maybe I'll refer that to you, Beth, as well. He says, everybody in mobility talks about having a seat at the table. Can we have a seat at the boardroom table if we cannot measure or report on ROI in mobility? So take Jeremy's point, do we even deserve a seat at the table if we don't measure what we do? And Mary says, yes, I agree. Mary put this, yes, I agree. We measure promotion, retention after an assignment. Are we keeping those assignments who we invested in? Because there are hidden costs of rehire, retraining if an assignee leaves after all their investment given. And my God, the comments are flying in today. And we've got Carol saying, how has return on investment, how has ROI and measurement of ROI been impacted and affected by remote work, COVID, and the willingness to allow more remote work? I think COVID versus pre-COVID, where many companies have restructured their work plans and how they think about where the employees physically sit. So we'll try and pick up on some of these, but just going back to where we were, these comments, and keep these comments coming. Beth, but do you want to just follow on from what Pankaj was saying about measuring ROI?
Certainly. So these comments are fantastic. And I think that this is precisely what we're trying to highlight. We're in a time, things are always changing. The only thing consistent is change, right? So things are changing, and therefore you need to make sure that if you're introducing a new policy, if you want to introduce a new policy, you want to introduce a new technology, you want to introduce any change, you need to know where you are now, what you're measuring, and then what you're going to compare it against, and keep measuring. Because every time someone asks you a question about why you're doing something and what the impact is, you want to know what the impact is immediately and on an ongoing basis. I speak to prospective clients obviously every day, and we're talking about how they really focused on the impact of a change that they previously made, but then haven't really revisited on a regular basis whether that change continues to deliver the impact that they thought it was. So they thought it was going to. Has actually manual processes recrept into what was happening? Have employee questions on different topics, such as remote work, increased, and the solutions, their way of sharing data, their way of sharing information, the way of handling those cases hasn't changed? And so if you're not measuring things in an agile way, if you're not thinking about this in a constant way, you're going to be left behind, and you're not going to keep getting those gains that you thought you were making when you previously made a change.
Okay, so let's drill down. We've talked at quite a conceptual level, but I'm quite a hands-on, practical sort of guy, and I know our audience are too. People in mobility tend to be. So what can GM teams actually do to capture and understand these costs? How do you go about doing it?
You can get in touch with us. It's something I really enjoy doing. So I, on a daily basis, I will meet with teams and go through helping them analyze using a number of questions, a number of data points to understand, okay, what are you currently doing? What are your employees currently doing? And rather than coming with a blank sheet, obviously I've been doing this for quite a while now, so I've got a lot of assumptions that we can take about how long people are on average taking to complete a task, how long employees are taking to complete a task, and average costs of different solutions as well. So if I can show you, are we sharing screen?
Yeah, sure.
Some pretty pictures where we can dig into things. So I've looked at our faces for long enough.
Hang on, let's okay. So I'm just sharing your screen. Okay, so we're seeing a screen now that says sample ROI metrics for global mobility. So tell us what we're looking at here.
So here is just a visualization, and apologies, this is all dummy data, but just to give you an idea of some of the data that you could get out of doing one of these exercises. So in order to get this information, we obviously need to know the approximate cost of an employee that you're relocating, the approximate average cost of your global mobility team time. And then we can multiply that out by the number of hours that we think you're currently spending on different tasks, that maybe if you were to change to a solution like Benivo, or to change your policy, or whatever it is we're looking at the change being, how much time could you save? And then obviously, as you can see here, I've put some figures of potential savings there as well.
So it's like drawing a line in the sand and saying, this is what it is now, and this is what it could be or would be in the future. Indeed, after the event, this is what it is in the future. And you show, so that's building the case of, if you like, current state to future state, which it then helps you build that case for change. So, sorry, Beth, I very rudely interrupted you, but do carry on explaining that.
So what I've done here is also just put it into lots of different buckets. Now, these buckets are going to be very different depending on your policy, your company, what you're doing. But I've tried to include a few in this example here. So for all relocations, how much time is being spent per employee? And then how much additional time is spent if they are moving internationally as opposed to domestically, or if they have escalations or exceptions. So it's really trying to look at the overall time per employee that you're spending. But one thing you'll probably notice here is the biggest time spent, which is something that maybe we're not all thinking about, that I referenced earlier, is actually this time on monitoring vendors yourself. And that can be one of the biggest time savings for our clients anyway, of using Benivo mobility services as well as technology, because that's where a huge amount of time is spent by teams if they're trying to manage that independently.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I suppose one of the benefits of outsourcing is that you've outsourced, but the downside is then you've then got to manage the people you've outsourced to and the whole supply chain, and that can take up a formidable amount of time.
Yeah, so you can see here I've put some, these are time savings. So this is all about the time that people are spending doing things. And this could be something such as, how long is it taking you to prepare an assignment letter, or to track vendor SLAs, or to give payments to people, or, as you can see, manage exceptions, escalations. So it's all just about hours. And this isn't just the mobility team. I've put it under the mobility team banner for here, but this could be any stakeholders that are currently involved in your team. So it could be your talent acquisition team, it could be your legal team, procurement, it could be finance, it could be your payroll team. So it's really trying to take a holistic look. If you take that big step back and say, big picture, how much is it actually costing us, not just in salary, but how much is it actually costing us to deliver relocations for every single employee? And then if we change something, what could be the saving, and actually what is the saving? So it's important to not just do it before, but go back and say, actually, did we meet these metrics? Was this a solid business case that we built? And do it on an ongoing basis, and keep trying to deliver more ROI every time you look at these facts and see, okay, what could I change?
Okay, so that's the time analysis. I mean, there's other elements to this too, aren't there?
Yes. So that was the manager's time. One of the things that we mentioned earlier was about employees as well. So what about employees' time? If they are, we did a survey of employees coming into the UK and found that they spent about 40 hours trying to settle as part of their assignment. And that was time spent doing things that really was just answering the question, well, what did everyone else do? Like, how do I set up a bank account? Which bank should I use? How do I get a mobile phone? It's all of those things that actually, if you give them the information in a usable format, it could save them hours. And this is all about being productive. So removing emails from going into their email box, and making sure that work is about work, and that relocation is separate and something that they can do quickly, easily, and that we're supporting them with. So here you can see, ways that we are able to save time for employees, but really, again, holistically looking at how much time is being invested by the company into this person's move.
And time saving for an employee also leads to a better employee experience, because no employee wants to go to a new destination, very excited to start work, but they're spending their time on the phone or whatever it is, to the bank, to going through paperwork, or getting a new mobile phone contract, or searching for an apartment, or dealing with unhappy spouse and kids maybe because they're not settled in the right location or the right schools, and things are just going wrong. So I think we all know those stories about how those things lead to assignment failure and assignment frustration. What we're saying is that we can actually measure it as well in terms of time, because presumably the quicker that an assignee or a relocatee can get started in their role, and the less, to put it bluntly, faffing around that they're doing with the move, the smoother it goes, the better the experience.
Yeah, and I think giving people also tools in order to bring this into an everyday business case. So there's one thing about putting numbers on a screen in front of your leaders, but even just saying to them, well, how long do you spend researching which holiday destination you're going to? So putting it in that sort of context, and then saying, well, multiply that tenfold. If they haven't relocated internationally themselves, how do you find this information? Some research, I was talking to the team at Pivot the other day, and they were saying that their research showed that everyone looked at least 4 or 5 different sources, even for just going on holiday. And so you can imagine if you're trying to find somewhere to live, how many sources will you go out and try and independently verify if they're not presented to you? So
yeah, you mentioned Pivot, and I know Lynn Greenberg's actually in the audience, or she certainly was earlier in commenting. So Lynn, if there's anything you want to add on that from Pivot's experiences, then please do put it in the comments, and we'll also try and get those on screen too.
And just maybe adding a couple of points, Brian, over there. So just adding a couple of points, like Beth mentioned, the employees spending time researching on things. The other thing that we also found out was they would reach out to the existing employees who've relocated, to their managers, etc. as well. So it's not just a loss of productive time for the relevant employee who's relocating, but across the organization for a lot of folks. That's number one. Number two, again, what we found out from some of our clients was, in a lot of cases, it is the partner or the spouse who's actually accompanying the relocating employee, who's having to do a lot of this kind of running around, gathering information, etc. as well, right? So we're not even quantifying the amount of time that they're spending over here. So that's, in some cases, the client that we were talking to yesterday was mentioning they are spending more than 50-60% of their time actually doing some of this research.
Wow, 50 to 6% of their time. So I think we talked about 2 elements here. Pankaj at the beginning talked about 3. He talked about time saving for the mobility team, time saving for the employees, and hard costs. So, here we go. As if by magic. So do you want to talk us through this aspect of the hard costs?
Sure, I'll start, and then Pankaj, please do jump in. So this is just trying to quantify what are the hard costs that you're actually spending, and really thinking about it not just in that first year of implementation. So when you're, and obviously talking about from a technology perspective, but when you're first implementing something, are a lot of the costs hidden because they're covered in an implementation package? Trying to think about sort of the long-term impacts of what you're doing. What support are you going to need internally and externally to make sure that you're continuing to be able to use this feature, this policy, this product that you have invested time in, thinking that it's going to improve the employee experience or improve your reporting or improve transparency, whatever goals it is that you're setting to measure your return on investment of a change, making sure that you're not just thinking about year one, that you're thinking all the way through the relationship as well. So what this graph is showing here is a summary of year one costs. But when I work with prospective clients, it's also trying to extrapolate out what other costs should be included in here on a longer term basis.
Cool. Specifically, Brian, I would call out, for example, with things changing, the needs of the organization changing, the policies within an organization changing, there is a need to make sure that whatever solution that you're looking at is kind of relevant to you, right? So that does require some changes, etc. as well. So some of the clients that we've been talking to have been mentioning that, while initially they commit to something in terms of the overall cost, but on an ongoing basis to make those changes, to have the system up to date, etc., they are having to incur more and more costs, to ensure that it's kind of staying, in line with their policies and expectations, etc. as well. So yeah, I think that's a very key point, is that it's just not like a one-time cost. I think that's something which needs to be reevaluated on an ongoing basis, like we do, right? We do the quarterly business reviews, etc., QBRs, etc., which are there, right? So each quarter or maybe half yearly, you're kind of revisiting that. Similarly, I think this is very important that your ROI calculations, which are there, are something which are kept up to date as well.
Okay, I mean, that's absolutely fascinating stuff. So I'll just take this off off screen for a moment. So we've talked there about the three areas. We've talked about time costs for mobility, time costs for employees, and we've talked about hard costs. Beth, have we got any resources that we can share with people if there's case studies that people can download? I think you were mentioning earlier there was something that we wanted to share.
So on the Benivo website, and if you share my screen now, I'm showing it, and I think Tally can share in the comments as well. We have various case studies of how Benivo has helped people to streamline processes. So that could be something such as the automating repetitive work that's being shown here. But on the website you'll find, or the Benivo website, you'll find all of these free resources that can help you think about how could you change your processes, how could you improve your processes to meet your needs. But I would encourage you just to reach out to us, because at Benivo, as Pankaj probably mentions regularly when he's on the show, we have the client analytics team. So our client analytics team is there to help. Client advisory team, as well as our client analytics team. But the client advisory team are there to help do case studies, benchmarking, and really help understand how ROI could be measured. What is it that's going on in your program, or that you would like to change, that maybe we've had experience of doing, or that could help? We could give some examples of how to measure that.
Okay, so we can measure it in different ways. We can talk about employee experience, we can talk about cost, we can talk about time. But one question for you, Pankaj, is why is everything ultimately seems to be a cost discussion? What's the importance of cost out of all of those?
I think clearly, in terms of where we've been headed in the last few years, that's kind of the focus area which is there, right? So in terms of the economic situation which is there, or even the COVID situation which was there, I think not just for the mobility program, but overall as well, right? Organizations are looking at ways and means to, I wouldn't say reduce costs, but I would say optimize costs, etc. Right? So that's where potentially I think the earlier comment which Brian you got on your screen around remote working, potentially reducing some of the assignments, etc., is also kind of coming in as well, right? So ultimately, I think that's what everyone is looking at. That's what the investors are looking at. And of course, the mobility cost is something that goes as part of that as well, right? So I think one of the other comments which was mentioned was, how do we get a seat not just on the table on a general management, but on a board, right? So what is discussed in a board meeting? Number one, of course, it's all about the revenues and the cost. So clearly, while we are trying to run a process, improve process, etc., but clearly the ultimate aspect is around what is the value that you are bringing onto the business, and of course the cost is the biggest element in the same.
And what about loss of productivity? Is that yeah, you go, Beth.
Yes, certainly loss of productivity is there. I was going to say that one of the costs that global mobility bring to the table, which is I believe undervalued and a little bit invisible, is also our ability to avoid costs. So anyone who's tax or immigration trained in the audience will be probably sitting there going, well, what about compliance costs? What about compliance risk? And I think that that's an area that I do certainly include in when I'm doing ROI discussions every day, because that avoidance of risk and that ability to say you're going to be compliant, which with remote workers, with cross-border workers, with all of the new types of remote work and mobility that we're becoming responsible for, is also something that needs to be quantified. And if we quantify it and put a number on it, it brings it to the attention of the leadership. Whereas if you don't put a number on it, they don't see it as a real cost. It's just like, oh, well, somebody can work remotely for 90 days, can't they? Oh, it's okay. Their laptop won't cost that much, or their flight won't cost that much. And if you don't put a number to the potential risk that that's bringing, and the ROI of mobility having a platform or a way or a systematic way of recording that and remaining compliant, I don't think it doesn't get factored in. So for me, that's also a huge one. But sorry,
risk is a huge area, and you're right, we haven't talked about it, because people struggle to measure ROI as it is, but actually maybe we should be looking at some form of risk-adjusted ROI, which might be a step too far. But one way that you could do it is you could look at ROI both in terms of, if you like, a best case scenario and maybe a reasonable worst case scenario, to look at exactly some of those issues especially surrounding compliance risk and indeed personal risk as well. But risk is a hugely important area. And I mean, we're a tech company. Let's just say a few words about cybersecurity. So, Pankaj, do you want to talk about cybersecurity risk as well?
Absolutely. I think that's perhaps, I would say, maybe the number one risk. So while we talked about the board and the management, etc., I think that's on top of everyone's radar. We've kind of, seen some organizations face a lot of issues around that, because the kind of data which we are dealing with for the employees, their family members, etc., the number of hands it's kind of getting into the supply chain, which is there as part of the overall process, Brian, it's kind of huge, right? The information getting passed, etc. So unless you have a good process, great technology to ensure that only the right information is going to the folks who need that information, you've gone through a assessment for those processes, the information is complying with other requirements in terms of data retention, etc. I think, unless you have that built in, I would say perhaps more than the compliance risk, Beth, I'm sorry, I would say cybersecurity to me is a kind of a bigger risk.
Yep, no, they all need to be included. And I think this is where, as global mobility professionals, we need to start measuring, not just as the audience was saying at the beginning, not just did they get promoted, are they still employed, which, although fairly tricky to track in some cases, is a bit easier data to get hold of, but really putting numbers on, have we put the company in a position that is secure, that is defensible, and that gives us that full return on investment for everything that we're investing in this mobility program.
Okay, and we've only got a couple of minutes left, but just as we get to our final 2 minutes, we've got all the data, we've done the ROI exercise, we've achieved something. What do we do with the data when we've got it? What's the next step? Pankaj, do you want to come in on what the next step, what we do with the data when we've got it?
Right. So that's something that we, as part of the engagement process, especially where clients are actually looking at implementing something new, like I said, as part of the change management, that's something that we will engage. We'll work with them. Of course, it's not kind of a single solution because each organization is different. The policies are different. We work with them and we help them actually build the business case. It is kind of a partnership, Brian, because like I said, it's very, very specific to a client. You need to understand their program, their policies, the compliance risk Beth mentioned, or the number of vendors who are involved as part of the procurement process, who are the other stakeholders who are involved, like the finance team for payroll or the payroll teams, etc. And that's what we help actually clients kind of put together to help them build that case and help quantify all of that cost and get to that value.
Okay, so I think I'm just going to bring Megan and Tally back on to the show. Julia unfortunately had to leave us to go to that dinner. This has been The View from the Top. We've got an amazing show for you next week, and I just want to publicize that, make sure you're all aware. We're going to be talking about relocating partners, and one of the things we just touched on in our show today is that if the partner isn't happy, the assignment tends to fail. So how do you relocate partners? And I'm super excited. We've got 3 guests on our panel next week. We've got Erin Goff from Recast. We've got Christelle Lab from SLB, Schlumberger as was. And we've got Des McKell from Net Expat. So we've got a fantastic panel for you. We'll be talking about some of the research that they've been doing, some of their experiences, and relocating partners, the key to successful relocation. A really, really important subject. So it's been an amazing show today. I think we've just touched on probably just the tip of the iceberg of what is a major, major issue and challenge, and has been for many years, but is hugely important. So I just want to say thank you to our audience for being with us. Thank you to Megan de la Cruz for being our change maker for the week. Thank you to Julia Onslow Cole for being our immigration guru. Thank you to Beth and to Pankaj to all your insights, and I know the hard work and the thought leadership you put into this subject. And as ever, many, many thanks to the one and only Tally Gorin for putting up with me and producing this show. So we hope you all enjoyed it, and we'll see you again this time next week when we'll be talking about relocating partners. And for those of you out in Australia who are watching us on the Recast, all it leaves me to say is good day. Have a great week, everybody. Bye.
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 Bye.